Okay, daily game design with Cable Talk Games. I'm your host, Scott Cable. I actually don't know what a useful starting point here is for these little things. I just love doing what I'm doing. Um, it also looks like it's possible that Twitch isn't super behaving. You know, I've been having these, just like I'm sure I'll be having ongoing internet struggles. Um, but I'll describe to you one of the absolute most chaotic moments. And I want to say the consequences weren't bad, but it's the kind of thing where this is like the absolute worst thing that could have possibly happened. As in, it couldn't have gone more wrong. Not that the effects were like terrible, but this was the situation. So this was Friday. You know, I finished up my stream. I was packing. I was getting ready to go, and then I had a few things to wrap up. I was going to Kauai to help with music for a church function, and I was in touch with Eric. That was basically the group I was going with, and I think the plan was like meet up at 12:30 at the conference office. Was it 12? 11:15, 12:15 at the conference office. Okay, so I was, prepping, but I also had, I did my packing, but then I noticed some weird stuff going on with my online class, and that's a big deal. I want to do that well. I want to make sure I'm prepared for that course, which is starting tomorrow. That's the official starting day. Is actually tomorrow. And what I like to do with that course is I typically release the content the Friday before. And anyway, I'm just trying to get in the mindset of like having that routine, having that pattern where, I've just got things ready to go. Anyway, so I'm like moving stuff into the course from my little prep site. And the thing is, my internet, because for whatever reason on my phone it's been kind of slow, even though thankfully today it looks like it's clear, it's doing okay, but it's not as fast as it should be. It's not as fast as what I paid for, so there's actually a possibility that they've slowed me down a little bit because of my overuse. That's totally possible. Anyway, so everything's taking longer than it should, and then I noticed this situation where in my class it usually shows all my students. And anyway, before I release things, I want to make sure that everything's in place. And also, the connection to the big organization that I get my textbooks from and stuff wasn't looking right. So anyway, I decided I needed to email this lady, and everything is just going so slow. So I thought, okay, I think I can be there by 12:20. So I texted Eric and I said, I'll be a few minutes late. I'm sending this email. By this time, it's like 12:05. And okay, didn't hear back. But then I had this realization: the office where we're supposed to meet is literally like it's above me, and my apartment is like literally on the way to the airport. And so I thought, well, I'll just save us some time and hassle, just have him pick me up here. Like, there's no need for us to go meet up and then transfer and whatever, leave my car. So and he can save the few minutes if he's really feeling a rush, just swinging by and picking me up. So then I sent him my location to pick me up, but I also gave him two options. I told him one way is for me to get picked up. You turn into my little street, and then there's a spot before you go down this little one way that would add some extra time. I'll just meet you there, or I can meet you at the intersection, which would just be like a super streamlined, super simple way of getting me and going. So I never heard back. Super quick shower, like a 2-minute shower, finished my packing, and by this time it's 12:15, maybe 12:20. And I'm not hearing anything back. And then I noticed that the data on my phone has a little exclamation point, which means it's not working. And anyway, so that's not good. I text him, hey, did you get my text? Because I don't know. There was no response. So I don't know whether or not those texts actually went through. Like, I have no idea at this point. It looks like they did, but I never got a response. So then I figured, okay, well, I got my stuff ready. I'll just go down to School Street, which is the main road that you would use to get onto the highway. That was one of the pickup options. I'll stand down there for, whatever. So at least they'll see me if they're coming. Well, and I assume they got my text, but I don't know for sure. So I'm just gonna go down there and be ready. Okay, so then I didn't. Again, I never heard back. I tried to call them several times. The little exclamation point is still there. The call is going through, but I'm getting both of their voicemails. I called Eric. I called Jana, his wife. So that wasn't working. Texting still wasn't working. So I thought, oh shoot, I bet he's just waiting for me at the conference office. So I waddled up to my car. I've got my guitar. I've got my heavy backpack. I walked up to my car, which had some time. My car is not parked by my apartment. It's parked out where I can, where I'm not going to get a ticket. So I jumped in my car and I was cruising up the Poly when all of a sudden my data is back. And I'm almost to the conference office. I get a call from Eric. Hey, where are you at? We're down at that spot you told us to pick you up at. And now this is like 12:45. And I'm just thinking, how in the world? Like, why is this timing so bad that, we couldn't, like, all I needed was one text. All I needed to get through was one call. And anyway, so I did a U-turn. I sped down as fast as I could back to my apartment, parked exactly where I came from. They had been, I wonder if they could have actually seen me, if I could have seen them. Like, I think what happened is because they were late too, apparently. I don't know how much time passed, but there was some point. So it must have been that they had passed up before I got to School Street, which means they'd been waiting there for a while. Anyway, it was just a mess. Like, it was just the dumbest thing possible. And anyway, it turns out that also the data for their phones wasn't working. When they got on our side of the Poly, there must have been an outage with Verizon. So I looked it up, and sure enough, there was an outage. But I cannot believe how that was the absolute worst timing for something like that. Anyway, we got to the airport. They were kind of stressed because the line was super long. I have pre-check, so it's not really a problem to get to the airport too, a little bit late. Anyway, we managed to get on the plane, but it was the dumbest thing. It was the absolute comedy of errors, like one error after another. Like, how is this possible? So anyway, had a great weekend in Kauai. Music went well. Got to reconnect with a guy I worked for and his wife, who I very much enjoy and appreciate. I haven't seen them in a long time. And anyway, it was cool to reconnect with them and other friends. I really love this guy, Jaime. Stayed with him. And I'll have one more. I'm going to mention and describe one more really great, positive situation from over the weekend. And it really affirmed, I think, my trajectory, like what is interesting to me, what I care about these days. And it's summed up in a conversation I had on the way back. Eric and I were in the airport. And I'm just looking out this window. That tree is full of avocados. It's amazing. And I wonder if any of them are going to get eaten. I have no idea. But it is absolutely, like, it's just packed. Anyway, so I told Eric today, and I think I've told him before, but with what I'm doing now, it's because of Eric that I'm here. That he's the guy that made everything work out. So I had a place to stay, I had work to do, and then now, as years have gone by, I've found other things to do. But it's always been because of Eric that I have a place here, that I'm included in some of the events that go on and stuff like that. So anyway, I told him as we're walking in the airport, I said, it's because of you that I finally found what I would do, whether I'm paid to do it or not. And that's games, game design, game hosting, game event planning. It has to do with creating these social situations where people come together, learn from each other, build meaningful experiences together, challenge each other. Anyway, build rapport, build bridges through play. I did not have any concept that I would be this enthusiastic about it. I can't even explain why it's so sticky for me. I love the teaching aspect. I love the puzzle aspect. I love the social aspect. There's so much about gaming, and whatever this hobby is, whatever this set of possible experiences is, whatever it is, I'm passionate about it. And I will do these things whether I'm paid to do them or not. Now, it'd be great if I can build up some systems where these things sustain me. I mean, I don't anticipate, especially with the variety, the diversity of possible things that I can do here in this hobby, because that is so expansive. I can't imagine myself getting tired, of the whole thing. I can imagine, there could be segments of it that get old or whatever, but I love being plugged into what we're doing on this island with gaming and beyond. So anyway, I just love this, and an exemplar. I think a really great example of this kind of thing is last night. I finally got to go to a friend's house on Kauai. We've talked about it for a while, but this was finally the time we're gonna play some games at his house. This guy Josh, I knew his family when I was in my undergrad period at Southern Adventist University. Josh Lay, and we've seen each other a few times. Anyway, cool guy, fun, like interesting, kind of like dry personality, but like sharp and always paying attention, athletic, just a cool guy. And anyway, so went in, they're playing a game kind of like Skull King, kind of like Up and Down the River, or I forget, there are tons of names for this game. It's a trick taking, it's a version of Rook or Spades or whatever that's pretty popular, and it's been reprinted under these other names. Well, especially Skull King is, I think, the mainstream version of this. And so we played through the game, and then we're kind of debriefing, chatting after, and I said, I'm desperate to share a couple of games with you guys. And so the first game I brought out was The Gang. The Gang is the cooperative poker style game where you're trying to rank your hands from weakest to strongest. And it took a little bit for them to get it, but when they got it, they just really enjoyed it. And it is one of those games that, I mean, for the right audience, and this was the right ones, like kind of young adults or like young working professionals, that for whatever reason they haven't seen a game like this. It feels refreshing. It's a cool challenge as a group. Anyway, from what I can tell, they had a really great time with it, The Gang, and I believe we were successful. No, I think we failed, actually, finally, in the end. In the final analysis, we failed, but we had a great time. And I just loved seeing that the people leaning in, understanding the situation, understanding the stakes, wanting to participate, wanting to engage, and then just kind of getting the essence of what it is we're doing. Nobody like lost their minds. I don't remember any frustration, but anyway, it was a really great time with that game. And then we took a short break, and I'm just kind of waiting to see what's the next. There was a brief pause, and then I jumped in. Oh, somebody said, "What about Acquire? What if we played Acquire?" Acquire is a 4-player game. We had 7 at that point. So then, so I said, "Oh, you guys like Acquire? Oh, I bet you'd really like this game." And I pulled out QE. QE, I'd heard about it. I think I'd heard about it from the Dice Tower. I ended up finding it on Big Island last spring. And most times this game is at the table, it's been a hit. And QE, the funny thing, around this table, we actually had somebody who studied, he called it quantitative economics. And so I asked, okay, can you explain to everybody what QE is? What does QE mean? Quantitative easing. So, he looked it up a little bit, and then he kind of talked us through what he thought it was. Anyway, that game for that group was, it was like almost perfect alignment. Not everybody did well the first time. Not everybody super got it. That econ guy understood the whole picture from beginning to end. And he crushed us. But just to see the reactions of people when they start realizing what people are spending. Okay, I'm almost done here. But the hook of this game, it's brilliant. In my mind, they did such a good job with this game. The cool thing was, too, that as we were playing and then even after, this guy Andrew was talking about how this would be such a great educational tool for people to understand macroeconomics. It's just such a good game. The tension is beautiful and the hook is incredible. So here's the hook. You are international powers buying out these failing companies, essentially. And those companies have certain characteristics that you might care more or less about. But the incredible idea here is that you have a blank check. And so quantitative easing has to do with these, these countries or powers that have the ability, that have the power to print money. So they're just injecting money into the economy. Or they're just kind of they're adding money when there really was none before. And anyway, so this is the cause of inflation. That's my understanding. I don't know economics. But anyway, so again, continuing to describe the hook of the game, it is you have a blank check. You can spend any amount of money you want on a company. Any amount. However, if you're the one who has spent the most amount of money by the end of the game, as you're bidding on these companies, you can't score, you automatically lose. So the person, whoever has spent second most money, then they can score and, whatever, they're fine. But that's the thing. You have a blank check. You're trying to keep track of how much are people spending on these things. And so what you see is that prices, they might start low, but then they just skyrocket at some point. To give you this example, and then I'll move on to some actual design. So at the start we played this twice. It was that magnetic for them. We played it twice. The first bids of the first game, one of them was 50 cents. Another bid was $10. And then I think I bid, it was $1,000 or $1,200, something like that. Okay, so that's the starting point. There are 15 tiles of companies that get bought over the next, series of turns. So from tile 1, which sold for, I think it was me, for $1,000 maybe a few $100s. I actually don't remember. But remember, the starting bids were in the double digits or 50 cents. From that first tile to the 15th tile, that 15th tile sold for 22 million or something like that, right? So you can see something happened. Okay, so that was the first game. The second game, I bought the first tile for 20 million. That was my bid at the start of the second game. And then the person who spent the team, actually, it was actually interesting. We split it. We had too many people said to split into two teams at one point. And then, there were three of us had our own boards, and then there were two teams, and then one person went to bed, and so there were 4 individuals in one team. So it was actually cool to watch the teams work together. Anyway, so the team that spent the most at the end of the second game, they spent something like $56 billion. So over the course of 30 tiles of game, right, from double digits or the 50 cent bid to no. They ended up spending 70 something billion. Their biggest bid was 56 billion. So just that, you can imagine that ramp up was steep somewhere. It was just awesome. The game just worked for everybody. Some people were still oh, we didn't really score many points, but and you can imagine that they might not love the game, and they would probably want to play something else given the choice in the future. But overall, everybody was just really having a cool time with the game and shocked when they looked at people's checks. You have to play it. It's a very, very cool game. So anyway, what the takeaway for me was, this is great. like we had a great time with a group of people I didn't know that well. Or, you know, we kind of learned, you know, we got to know each other a little bit more. I had a couple friends in there, so that matters. But I've had this idea. So I love this. Like, I love jumping in, hosting a couple of games, trying to pick the right game for the right group. I love it. It's amazing. And it's not easy, but it's amazing. So, you know, even if I were to turn that into some kind of business, I actually talked to my friend for a little while about this and even some of his business ideas. But I think that'd be awesome if people understood the value of somebody coming in to their space. And I'm talking like this on a small scale, just like we did last night. Maybe even smaller given the type of games that I would enjoy teaching. But anyway, whatever people want, I think I'd be okay with. So the idea is, you know, I've got games, maybe I've got some snacks as well, and I roll into this space, set up a couple of games. Maybe beforehand we've done a little inventory, a little survey of what's your gaming experience, what games are interesting to you. Here's my library. You know, these are some of the games given your experience level I think you'd like. How about you have a look and see what you would like me to teach. So I go in, set everything up, and then just host games for the evening. I'm happy to teach, don't need to play, answer questions, just kind of be the rulebook reference. You know, if people wanted a strategy guide, you know, I could help give some ideas or tips or whatever. But just be in the space, connect with people, and facilitate games really well. If people understood what value is in that type of experience, I think this would make for a very, it'd be a small scale, but it could be a pretty lucrative business, I think. That's assuming that people understood what it is we were doing. And I think that's not easy. So anyway, you know, imagine paying a small fee per person for this person to come in and just facilitate a great evening of interaction and play and good memories. I feel like that could do really well. You know, again, we'd want experts. We'd basically want elite teachers, you know, just great, super, like with great interpersonal skills, great conflict management skills. Like all of that stuff would come to bear at the table, you know, as you're facilitating things with like a group of people you're not super familiar with and who has its own history. You know, you could really walk into some rat's nests or some hornet's nests, I should say. But I think in theory this is a really cool idea, and it was reinforced by my experience last night. Had a great time. Anyway, let me get to Ravens here. My goal with Ravens today is using some of where I got last time as a starting point. It's kind of like this. Okay, once I assume that we're going to move more forward in this way, now I can make all kinds of downstream decisions, and that's my goal for today. So assuming that I have some clear ideas about what to do with these tiles, now I can start doing some more. So, well, this was fun, but I'm actually back to being confident that, like, I don't know if I should even keep these around as drafts, just to show evidence, almost like a journal. But what I'm going to do now is kind of make some choices about how many tiles I would want total, right? So we can just drop this in here. I'm thinking I like this model right here. And just to describe it briefly, the concept is that, actually, you know what? Let me do one more thing. So, what a thought I had today was that this, let's say the game starts with a single tile. Let's say that's the beginning point, and let's say that this is like the Raven's nest, right? Shouldn't have. Let's just say it's the Raven's nest. Okay, so just a blue tile. I know what I'm kind of excited about is that this. I mean, imagine the table where this is the one tile on the table, and it's just sitting there in the middle, and you place your ravens initially down there. And when you place, then where was I? Nest. Okay, so you start, you start here, and then I'd like a top-down nest, please. I wonder if I should request that top-down. Oh, nice. There's one. That's not what I'm looking for, but there is one. Okay, let's just call this the nest. Doesn't look awesome, but it's good enough. Right, so the ravens all start. Let's just say they start here on this tile. Let me. Okay, so now here is another tile type. This is a town. The way I envision the town working is that it just comes with a stack of tiles. Whenever a raven enters the town, that player, the owner of that raven can look through the tiles and pick one, right? Something like that, something super simple. Or maybe they draw 4 tiles and choose one, draw 3 tiles and choose one. Actually, I think that'd be better. So let me write that down. Okay, Raven's progress. So today is 8/24. You know what? I think I need to respond to a friend's message really quick. Oh, we've been playing this playing this game on my Discord server, Lynxicon. It was introduced by Andrew. It's been a lot of fun. I'm no good at it. What I mean is I'm not doing the kind of thinking that this game rewards. And some of my other friends are similar. One guy's done super well. Anyway, that's been really fun. But let me just message a guy back really quick. He wants to go to Wet and Wild today, and I'm not feeling like I could be convinced later on today, but I just feel like I have quite a bit to do. So let's see. Yeah, hang on one second. Yeah. Almost finished here. Okay. Okay, back to Ravens. Now, I wanted to write a couple of notes here. First of all, 8/24, thinking about having a single starting tile. That's one idea that occurred to me that I want to make sure I take note of. What is happening here? Hello? I'm not sure why it's not giving me a cursor. Internet still looks good. It's kind of choppy though. I can see Twitch is showing me that the connection's not super duper smooth. I wonder if I should be taking notes here as well. I can come back later and update them. But anyway, first idea is the single starting tile. Hello, hello. Stream still looks good. It also looks like the latency for Facebook is a lot better. How do I say that? The speed looks better. Like I can see that the video is not as far behind as it usually is. I can keep working on this while we wait. What is going on? Okay, it's definitely loading. Weird. Okay, so what I'm thinking right now, okay, so what I was gonna do is write down, what in the world? Yeah, I don't know why Discord doesn't load super well with this internet, because everything else seems fine. Okay, so one idea is that this is the starting tile and it's just in the middle of the table. Cool. The other idea I had just now is like you draw 3 and choose 1 from the town. And then these, once the player flips these over, then I think what they do is populate. I think what they do then is populate the tiles with like what's happening here? Yeah, I don't really get it. So okay, I did make a copy. I'm gonna get rid of these for now. So let's say one of the sets of design choices will be how many of each of these should exist in the game. So I'm gonna make all of these. So one cool thing that, I mean, it might be interesting is that it's that I could potentially flip a nest tile, and that could be another starting point for ravens, right? So future wise, like you might choose to start in this, on this nest tile or that nest tile. So I think that's a pretty neat idea. Let's say there are 3 towns. Why not? And then and we need some variety of these. So I'll just ungroup. Well, I'll copy and then ungroup. So remember that these plains tiles, I'm going to center what? Oh. These plains tiles are going to have 1 to 2. So I'm just going to do it like this, actually. These plains tiles are going to have 1 to 2 tiles placed on them. And so this one is going to be the 2. Like, this is basically all there is for a 1 dot tile. So I'm going to do a 2 like this. And looks like 1 more of these. Right? And then maybe I'll just do this. Okay. I mean, I could have more variety too. Question will be how many tiles total should there be in the game? That's the actual big question. So I'll leave this like that for now. I'll make another, let's say 2 of these. I think we also need an Elijah. You know, you know what I realized just now at this very moment. Now, what I put it together, I put it together that I stick my tongue out quite a bit when I'm working, And I remember my dad saying, or I think it was my dad, but somebody, when I was in high school playing basketball, I used to play basketball like sticking my tongue out a lot or anything where I was like focused on other stuff. I know that's like a thing. Maybe it's because I'm more like Michael Jordan than I thought, because that's a big thing for him, right? Anyway, I'm gonna make a 4. I guess this is what I made this for. So this is for 3 or 4, right? So I'll drop another dot right in the center, just like that. And I think I want one more. I'll copy this. And so I'll group these together. So 3 forests. And yeah, how's this looking? So if there are 2 nests, we still need an Elijah tile as well. I'm kind of thinking that the Elijah tile, there's a little thematic tension here, and we noticed it during our meeting, like the last time I met with Kristen and Zach. There's some thematic tension because in the story, the ravens were guided to Elijah. That's like an important concept. That they knew, somehow they knew where Elijah was going to be, so they knew where to take the food, right? So God guided the ravens. Here, there's a possibility of making, like, of running the game so that Elijah shows up randomly. In other words, what I was thinking about is, let's say there are, well, how many tiles does this make? So there are 2, 5, 10, 14, 15 tiles. If Elijah is on one and if I make 2 mountains, right? That's kind of what I was thinking, was just having 2 mountains. I want to adjust this too. So let's say this was the collection of forests. Although I don't know if I want more or less. "15 tiles, interesting. I wonder if more tiles is better. I kind of think it is. So in other words, the green, the forest, can be 3 or 4, have 3 or 4 dots. In other words, tile placement spaces. So when they flip this over, they would draw 3 or 4 tiles from the bag and then place them over here just like face down, right? And yeah, like I think you want more stuff to look through as a player, right? I think you want, maybe this should be a different color actually. I'm just thinking about it now. Because I kind of want Elijah on blue. What should this color be? The nest. It could be brown. Dark brown? What should the mountains be? Gray? What was that? Why did those... Interesting. Ungroup. Okay, this is not... Oh, I know why. Gray. Cool. Now I can group it. The problem is like it selects all of the, even the dots, right? So I'll just select these. This is slower than I was hoping, but that's also fine. Why did I do that? Okay, so now we can have the nest be a lighter brown, right? Oops. Okay, and then we need an Elijah tile. We need an Elijah tile. What if I just type Elijah? I don't remember what shows up. Not my favorite here. What do I say? Bible character. Maybe this guy. Doesn't matter a lot, but let's see. Okay. I'm going to change these to blue. All right, let's go back to Elijah, the Bible characters. And I felt like I like this guy. Look, and he's wearing blue. How perfect is that? Not good, maybe because it blends in a little more, but anyway, okay, so in theory, this is all the tiles. Is this enough? Not enough? Maybe another nest is not a great idea. Is Discord loaded yet? No, what is going on? I really don't get it. So, like, why is it stalling out like this? What if there's another, what if I go here? I can write up here these ideas. So 8, 24, 8, 24. So single starting nest tile, right? Town, draw 3 or 4, or 4 tiles, pick one. What else? Yeah, I don't know if I like this nest idea. Because, like, let's say the nest shows up right next to... Well, if it shows up next to Elijah, that's maybe a problem. But it's like the first nest... I think one thing I want to do here is, so I'm going to create this little, I'm going to make a kind of arrow, I think, right? And then what I want to do with this is, like, obviously on the starting tile, the orientation of the next, 30 degrees, I should know that. The orientation of the next, let me shrink these even more. Of the next tile, it doesn't matter. If you're building it off of the, nest, that orientation doesn't matter. However, what about Maybe I should have ungrouped that first. What about the rest of these tiles, right? So I think almost like Magic Maze, when you flip over a new tile, maybe it should connect with how would I do that? So I'm thinking that it should connect with, let's say here's this Elijah thing, right? So now this little arrow means it needs to touch, like it could be like this, or it could be like this, right? So just that it needs to touch the tile, somewhere it needs to touch the tile that you are moving from. That's the concept, I think. Okay, so now where to put this? Anyway, I like this idea in general. But it is gonna force, like, it feels like a kind of big design decision. Like, how far away from the tiles should this be? Let's group these. So now here's the potential, right? Now if the yellow one, let's move these up and away a little bit. So now the yellow one needs to touch. So it could go in, what's the angle I need? 150. It could drop in here. Because as long as, let's say I'm leaving, oh, you know what? If I'm leaving this tile, then what needs to happen is this tile needs to go either here, what is it, -150 here, or down here, right? So this is going to make for some really weird shapes, which I think is cool. I think that's something that we want in some sense, right? So let me add one of these arrows to every tile here, right? And the ones that were like, the orientation doesn't super matter on some of these, so I can just I mean the position on the terrain tile itself doesn't really matter, so I can just put all these on the same, right? Like, who cares how the building is oriented when it comes up? But this is cool. This also reminds me of Magic Maze. I love Magic Maze, and I really like some of the decisions that went into it. It's pretty cool that in that game you flip over new tiles when during your exploration. That's what's happening here. And okay, that one has one already. So okay, yellow's done, and I can do one on green here. Right. This works. I love how you explore, but then you can you kind of pick? No, the tile comes in a certain with a certain orientation. I think that's really smart. I wonder if I can flip this horizontally. I think I can. I don't see flip, but it doesn't matter. I'll just rotate. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I almost feel like the mountain. Should the mountain just have tons of resources? Hmm. I think I might be kind of messing. I think the way I'm doing this is probably not most efficient, actually. You'll see how that could be an issue in a little bit here. Discord, hello? Nope. If I click this. What if I search for Discord? It was weird that the front page like this shows up. Like, why is this happening? But Discord itself, like, is not showing up. Like, what's up with that? Don't really get it. Like what? Does it just want Chrome or something? Does it prefer Chrome? I'm not sure. Did I say 5 or 6? I think I did, right? So what I'm thinking right now, what about predators? Predators. So the tile on reveal, right? Let me try this. So tile, terrain tile on reveal. If you pull a predator, does it activate and then go back in the bag? That's the question. Because one concept here is that one possible fundamental design decision is whether to flip the tiles, to reveal the tiles right away when you draw them from the bag, or let this be another level of exploration. So, if tiles come out here, they're either face up or face down. I don't know. In a way, I prefer them face down. But then it makes me wonder if we really should have a different bag for each terrain tile. Why am I thinking that? I don't know. Because I really do prefer the idea of one bag just being the source of all of this. Like, that just sounds like simplicity. The essence of simplicity is if all these things are just related to one bag. Also, I should just put these together somehow just to see what sort of sizes we're dealing with. I think everything is grouped except for this guy. Okay. Oh, I want to put the arrows out. Okay. Let me just finish this real quick. Yeah, because I don't know how crazy this shape can get, right? These don't have to be perfect, but it is nice if they're not super out. What did I just do? I just changed the view somehow. Page zoom reset. Okay. And then one more of these triangles. This guy. So one question I have as I start to lay these out is this enough? Are these enough tiles? So I'll start with this one in the middle, and then I'll just kind of start, oops, that is not cool. Is this the case? Oh, it is the case with a bunch of these. Right. This is grouped, this is grouped. Is it funny how, like, is this not tedious? It kind of is, but I still love it. And I can't really say why, but I think it's so fun to just like kind of get things working, get things built so that they actually function. Like prototyping is super fun to me. Anyway, so I think the last thing we'll do for today is just move these around so that they kind of make a full map. So let's say I moved this direction on my turn, right? And this person moves, and they're heading out here, right? So you could, what if you pulled like two town tiles right away or something? Now let's just say, let's just make it feel a little more random than that. Now let's say you're moving off and maybe this one comes off this way. So this guy drops. So he just goes like this, right? Now this tile is kind of in a weird situation. Now he comes over here. Let's say there's a forest tile that comes up. And let's rotate. So how does this work? What's possible here? Oh yeah, so this leaves like a hole, which is kind of cool as a problem. Now let's say this one comes in, this guy's exploring over here. There's another like big weird hole. Great, right? Like this looks cool, I think. There are these spaces you just can't fly over as a raven. Now they can keep exploring that way, and maybe, you know what they probably do? I think Elijah is maybe in the bottom. Still no Discord. I think Elijah is maybe in the bottom quarter of the stack, something like that. Let's say they come this way. These all would get rotated, right? Appropriately. I'm just not really super concerned with that right now, but I can do it, right? And so you might get a situation where players realize it's actually better to kind of keep things close. It's 180. Yeah. So they might build everything right around the nest here. Right? 3 towns might be too many. I suddenly have that feeling. Because if it's really just like you actually get more choice, I'm just going to get rid of that right now. And what if Elijah just drops in? Let's say he drops in right here. Say they're exploring this way, and so here, so Elijah just comes in like this. The tricky thing about, like, so now, does this mean all of these are unused? Like there's kind of no reason to go over here now. If Elijah is not at the center, right? Then why would they ever go over here? Maybe. Let me just finish laying these out. Excuse me. Maybe this comes in like this. Okay. So this doesn't look bad. I just don't think it looks awesome either. So like once all this stuff is revealed, then what happens? So yeah. Okay, so I'll screenshot this. Someday Discord will be working for me. That's so weird. Ravens tiles. Right? Okay, so that's an hour for me. Thanks so much for jumping in on this stream. I feel pretty good about making progress here. And anyway, it's going to get busy for me in a little bit. I really should be subbing more. That means trying to stream early in the morning, and I hope I have the stamina for that. So anyway, we'll see. Hopefully I get some more sub jobs this coming week. That'll affect my schedule quite a bit, but I just love doing this. So thanks for joining me. Yeah, I will see you soon.